I'm excited to see you. Thanks for showing up. I I am in Truckee, California, and I wanted to kind of come and talk to you a little bit about, again, that high achiever dilemma when capacity is like a curse. It is kind of the hidden cost of doing it all. So today I'm really talking about two things: capacity and commitment. And the way that I remind people about those two concepts is when we're talking about prosperity mindset and the lessons that we're going to go through. A lot of times this is where people, especially high achievers, get really cloudy, because high achievers love to have a lot of capacity. I know it. Let's look in the mirror, right? I love high capacity. And they don't ever see capacity as ever being a downfall or a toxic trait. They just think, oh yeah, this is great. I want to have that. And so what I really want to talk about is, is your capacity quietly breeding a deficit in the one thing that you need the most? And that deficit is, for many people, the commitment to themselves. So I'm going to dive into that toxic trap, and it is a toxic trap of high capacity, and how to balance it with the radical commitment of your growth. And remember, I don't care about all those other people. I just care about you, and I care about what you're doing. And the thing that's really interesting about all the people that hang out with me in class and show up at this podcast, because it's a secret, is that these are people who are doing amazing things in the world. So I understand why people love capacity. But there's this other part that sometimes having massive capacity does these little tiny little shifts, these little changes, these slight detours that really change the way we look at obstacles or problems. And it oftentimes erases the learner's mindset. And it also erases your ability to be witness, to just stand there and not be in judgment or not be in active capacity. So when we look at capacity, again, it's like the simplest way to explain capacity is the ability to take on a load, whether that's emotions, whether it's a job, it can be anything. And people with a lot of capacity, they are excellent at making it look effortless. They can work a 10-hour day. They've trained, they do systems, they have time management. They've invested in all of these things that allow them to be better. They want to be problem solvers. They want to tackle really large and critical issues. And that by itself is a great trait. It doesn't become not great until it becomes toxic. And this is where this little weird bit is, right? That someone who has a high capacity also and has done a lot of stuff, like the older you get, the more wonky this gets, because you can just visualize yourself doing that, right? The greatest resource that we all have is resourcefulness. People with a high capacity are insanely resourceful. So just because they can visualize themselves or someone else or an outcome, they think they should be able to just do that. And it doesn't always work that way. And it just doesn't always work that way. So it's this constant inner voice that will start to kind of slap them to go, why is this so hard? This shouldn't be so hard. Like, I'm super smart. Why should this be hard? Well, because it is hard. Being a smart person doesn't mean you're good at everything. Just because you think you should be good at something doesn't mean you've actively practiced it. And prosperity mindset is a practice. It is something that you have to do daily to shift the way you think about things. And that means it's messy. It's clunky. You got to work around it, because thinking in a new way takes effort. And sometimes the effort is not being at high capacity. Sometimes you have the capacity to be prosperous, but that doesn't mean that you have the commitment. And that commitment right, is the other part of this. And commitment is a really wide word. So when we're thinking about commitment, it's that intestinal fortitude, right? Do I feel that fire in my belly? Do I have the time? Do I have the wherewithal? Do I have the finances? And you know as well as I do, if a high achiever wants something, they will find a way to do it. If they want a month in Greece, they're going to find a way to have a month in Greece. That means their capacity is matching their commitment, right? I want something, I'm going to get. But here's the thing. A lot of people fail, and I mean fail, on committing to their own personal growth because they're just like deferring it out, right? I can't do it. And what's the hook? Like why am I bringing up these two words? Why do I want you to think about these two things simultaneously? Well, you have to have a commitment around your capacity to not always be doing. You have to commit to not always doing it. You need to focus. Are you doing the things that are the most prosperous to your value system? Are you putting your resources in the right area? Prosperity is the ability to magnify. You want to magnify your efforts, your resources, all of that. And you want to magnify it in a way that is about your future, not a corporate function, not a thing on the wall, not, an award or a price tag or whatever. Because here's the thing, there's always a hidden cost to always being on. And this is where it gets really mucky, because many high achievers like you have partners and families and healthy, loving relationships. And guess what? Those relationships, they're time consuming. And you almost have to hide to take some time for you alone. And you do, like I have to, and this is where mindful isolation is really critical. You have to be alone with your own thoughts. It's not, you have to be alone with your thoughts and ideas. And you have to give some of those hidden masks time to unveil, because high achievers with high capacity always are masking at some point. And when you are in that high capacity, you are often wearing a lot of masks, not just one. And sometimes you're so used to being whatever role works at this high capacity that people forget who they are without that capacity role, without that mask. And another thing about capacity is that people with high capacity are always seeing opportunity. And where commitment is needed is the ability to say, can I commit to not always looking for opportunity you have to follow through on? I don't have to do something about every opportunity that I see. But if I see opportunity in every single thing, man, it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're just spinning the wheels. You're just putting it in there. So you have to follow through on commitments that will actually get you physically, spiritually, intellectually, emotionally into your prosperity position, right? What are you magnifying from? What is your pixel of change? And, I've got a couple of weird pieces to that. And the one that I really think you should think about is the fatigue trap. And that's really about, what are you regretting that you're not doing, right? And why is that a capacity problem, right? What is the commitment problem? Everybody that's at high capacity is dropping something. And they have regret about that. And we can only commit to so many things at one time. So what ends up happening is that we often, in fatigue, which is very common, stop showing up. And guess what? The first person we stop showing up for is not the outside world. It's not where we're playing on the stage and wearing those masks. The place that we manage in fatigue that we stop showing up for is us. It's ourselves. So, how many times are you not doing the things that are important to you? I often have to look around, just look around in somebody's living space to see the fatigue. How much caffeine are they consuming? How much email is piling up, right? How many times are they don't even know what they're spending money on because they have enough money, it solves so many things. But they're not actually using those resources towards the things that build them. And that is, high capacity income allows you to ignore a whole bunch of stuff. And you'll solve problems with money that maybe don't even need to be solved that way. So for yourself, I love capacity and you love capacity, but is the capacity working for you? Is it overloaded? When are you setting it down? And what are the commitments that are the most important to you? Are you investing in that? And are you aligning your resources, your time, your money, your spiritual investment, your intellectual investment to the things that are the commitments that you want? Because remember, what are we doing, right? What are we always looking for in, why do I keep bringing all this stuff up in prosperity mindset? Is because we're looking for harmony. And we are looking for harmony in all the parts of ourselves. Because we're all a lot of different things inside, right? We have a spiritual self, we have a physical self, we have an emotional self, we have a financial self, we have a social self. I mean, there are many parts of us. And that's so complex that it's hard to build that harmony. And so when you look at that in capacity, that's also adding in intelligence, skill, knowledge, technique, right? It's an attribute that you have polished. It is commitment to your trustworthiness, your integrity, your passion, and the resolutions you make to yourself. But here's the distinction. People who have a high capacity are often also uncomfortable with really basic failings. So they don't appreciate being lethargic. They don't like inefficiency. They don't like people who are looking like they have learned helplessness. They don't think it's okay to have, right? Pleasure, relaxation, enjoyment, fun. Why? Because those things are not in high capacity. And so you might indulge in them sometimes, but you don't see them as being like the point of the day. And the point of the day is to enjoy your life, You have to find the things that are always really going good. And what does that mean? When you are in that weird, uncomfortable things with basic failings, is you end up striving to get out of this weird deficit that you can't actually pin down. So what happens is people at high capacity are often running at a deficit. Your strive for capacity actually breeds incapacity. That's a mind blower, right? And so when you are looking at that ability, right? That's why we look at learning how to be a witness, right? Not having to opt in, not having to judge things. This is why we have to have balance, because it's really easy to always go for the prize. And that prize for many people is not the prize of balance. They believe that safety and stability are located conveniently in this stage of capacity. And I'm saying, maybe you might want to relook at that. Maybe you might want to look at balancing, not just waiting for the leftovers, not just putting yourself last, not just giving yourself scraps, but really be the counterweight for yourself to say, for however much I'm going to give them, I'm going to give to myself. Because balance is neutrality. And it's what gives you the calmness and the composure to all of the things. It's the lucidity that we understand, that there is benefit in coordinating all the things so that we can do all of the things we want and have them work in harmony. Now, let me say that again. Balance is neutrality. It is giving calmness and composure to things, all the things, right, that we are coordinating in our lives. we're always trying to get the right blend, the right arrangement, because this is the symphony of your own life. And that symphony doesn't just show up. You have to practice. You have to have a close, intimate relationship with capacity, commitment, and why? Because you want the harmony. The goal is to be well within. And that is putting an alliance in between capacity and commitment and understanding how they can be poisonous and how they can also be life-giving. So I'm glad that you're here, and I hope you get a chance to think about it and not just think about your capacity next to somebody else's. And again, I would close with this for you of like, do you actually do more than anybody you know? If so, why? There's your dig in. There's your something to dig in. So anyway, I'm going to take the crunchiness here. I am taking my Hello Panda strawberry cookies, and I'll see you later. Hello from Truckee, California. And, night, night. I am glad that we got this time together. All right. I'll see you soon. Night, night.